Bonjour,
Bonjour,
Linda.
Melindas.
Welcome everyone. This is a VCR party spinoff called Frenchy and the Creep. For those of you who haven't been here before, I'm Steve Lawrence, aka Frenchy, and with me today is.
I'm George the Creep.
And normally I am the director of VCR party before this all started, and George is our VHS detective. But, as this quarantine happens, I've gotten really bored, and I begged George to dive into the found footage catalog with me. And normally we do the different volumes of things that are on Found Footage Fest's Super Long Play Club, which can be found at their website, and it's an amazing resource. This one, however, we're going to do a little bit of a different episode this week. We are going to go back to look at the original VCR Party episode 0. George, what am I forgetting to tell the people?
Let's see. Well, Joe Pickett and Nick Pruer are intrepid adventurers in the crypts of dead media, pilfering soon-to-be classic clips from VHS tapes, spreading joy and amazement to humanity through their tours and their internet shows. And this show is not like any other show in a variety of ways. And one of the ways is that it does not start with episode 1. It starts with episode 0. And, one person in this conversation was there the very day that it was recorded and sent out live over the internet to humanity at large. That man is director Steve Lawrence. What do you remember about that night?
I was there. Well, it was interesting because the reason why we called it episode 0 is we needed a practice, but we're like, why not record it? And if it's any good, we'll still put it out there, and give it a try. So that's exactly what we did. And, I remember the guys calling me and telling me that this was something they were interested in doing, if I was interested in coming along and help. And I said, of course, these are my friends. And I figured, we'd do it for a little while and then it would be done. I didn't think that it would be going 2 years later.
Stronger than ever.
Yeah, I just figure, give me an excuse to hang out with my friends once a week and, watch some videos and have some laughs. But yeah, no, here we are 2 years later, and now during this quarantine, I guess 4 shows a week if you include the AP episode. So we're they are doing a lot of content. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad we did it. But I also thought it would be fun to kind of look back on it and see, once again, we're always doing this because it's something I'm interested in. So I wanted to look back and just see what's different. Because I know those guys, they never, ever go back. They're always going forward. So I figure that's one of our jobs, George, is to look back and kind of archive some of the stuff. So I made some notes, but I'd love to hear some of your notes. Like, what stood out to you?
Well, first off, I noticed that this is in their original office in Gowanus. I think it was over New Year's of 2019, they moved to their current office, which is actually in the same building, but I think it's larger.
Yes, it is.
They're able to, I think before there were sort of like rows of tapes, and some people have been to the office, viewers, Melinda's, last October, I think, but the walls are floor to ceiling, a library of VHS tapes. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's more for the connoisseur, I think.
Yeah.
I think that.
Well, that's what this show is for. It's
exactly.
for the connoisseur.
The couch versus the chairs. I'm
Yep.
glad that we went to the chairs. I know that didn't happen for a while.
And the pillows. Do you know anything about the pillows? What they're with the faces on them?
Yeah,
They're
so
friends of theirs.
Yeah, it's Tom Jacobson and his wife Amy.
Oh.
So someone that we've talked to here on a previous episode of Frenchy and the Creep. He was one of their, they've all been basically friends since they were 10 years old, I think. So somebody asked that question, who's the big eye behind Nick? And, seemingly poor Nate Couch thinks that they never got an answer. But the truth was, Corey Branter asked the question, Navy SEAL training, not so sure about that. And that's where Found Footage Festival replied, that's our friend Amy's eye. She made the photo of herself onto a blanket and gave it to us for Christmas. I think Corey was probably confused, and Nate thought they never got an answer. So who knew?
So what other, let's see. So they They switched over to clip-on lavalier mics, but here they're using the handheld mics, which in a way reminds me of the Found Footage Festival DVDs. In a way. So
I'm with you. I liked them. I think it sounds better. Like if they're up there, I do think like, 'cause even just the difference between here and there, especially with they're constantly leaning over. But for Joe and Nick, it's just so much easier to have it lav where they could have two hands constantly. They're opening, they're doing all these things. And it was just such a problem for them.
And there were a lot of other similarities and differences. One difference that I think would be very shocking to the longtime viewer is that Nick and Joe seem to be friends here. They seem to enjoy each other's company, and they seem to they get along. And all that is also along with the microphones reminds me of the DVDs because they're not like competitive.
I think
that way.
I think they come and go with that. I think Joe can always be bit of a curmudgeon or get Nick, amp Nick up. But yeah, here it was one of their early ones. They're much more, they got their game faces on. Right. They're going, this is something new. They're really, excited. Whereas later, and this was the whole reason that they did this, is they thought this would be a kind of cool experience for the fan, is to watch the videos with them, see what they like, talk about them, and discuss. And, I think when they are doing that, they are busting each other's balls and, busting each other's chops and going through that. So I do think what you're seeing nowadays is just, you're just hanging out with the two of them. Here, There was a little bit more of a show, but I mean, to me, not too much.
Yeah. And right off the bat, they give the origin story and set up pretty much the format of the show that it still has. They mention that they've known each other since they were kids and that they've been challenging each other to show a more interesting, funny, outrageous, shocking video clip to each other. And then they even start off with a fixture of the show, Show and Tell, which you may now know as Show Us Your Raviolis. So let's get into some of the videos.
Yeah, well, I don't know why... they changed the name. I personally like the Show and Tell better. But that's been a constant thing for Joe and Nick, I know, is, how much do you reset the show? Because a lot of times you get new viewers who have no idea what's going on, but you don't want to bore the old viewers with, what you've done again and again and again. So like that's something they're always, usually Joe is trying to fast forward to the next point and Nick is trying to stop and give a little bit more context.
And it's that dynamic tension which draws viewers back each week. At least that's what pulls me in. Also, I love gesticulations, and the difference between these two polar opposites allows that.
All right.
So let's talk videos. What did you like?
So it's not even what I liked. It's like I like seeing like. I loved seeing like early on, like, Nick is excited about ventriloquism, which is something that's still going to today. He has said that he's going to try to learn ventriloquism over this quarantine.
But I beat him to it.
True. That is very true. Mr. Sprinkles is amazing. If you haven't seen it, tune in to the last quarantine classics. And I thought that was very funny, and hopefully into future quarantine classics. I'm hoping Mr. Sprinkles becomes a statement. I got I'm house sitting a dog, or my brother-in-law's dog. I'm dog sitting. That's the word I'm looking for. And so he's going to make some occasional appearances today throughout the.
That's awesome. Yeah, I want to know what's the dog's name again?
Henry. He is an Italian Greyhound. And,
you heard his name, and
a great guy.
That's a pretty simple sermon. You better watch, boy.
The point of ventriloquism is that you don't move your mouth while you're talking.
I know, Geraldine. I think when you are a religious ventriloquist, you kind of get a pass. All right, hang on. There's one big punchline coming up. Amen.
That's just what I was thinking.
Oh, no, I'll be good.
That's right.
I got got a wooden leg. And you know what? You and me got something in common.
We've got something in common? What is that besides both being so cute?
Well, I got a knothead.
Explosive laughter.
Connie called you a knothead.
Yeah, Connie probably did call me a knothead.
Yeah, I
Okay.
did.
Wait.
And then you know what else, good Larry?
No, what else, little Ricky?
I got a back as thick as a gourd.
You got a back as stiff as a board.
Didn't know how hard to laugh
It
on
gets
that one.
worse. I got a cedar chest.
See your chest, yeah.
I thought that would get better laughs.
Yeah,
That's pretty.
What about you? So I went with Nick's ventriloquism. What's something that you either really liked or wanted to talk about?
Well, I would not have guessed that the very first tape they showed was Navy SEAL CJ Karachi's fitness tape.
Conditioning.
Well, he makes it up as he goes along.
Hopping around.
He jumps around on rocks.
Many new exercises,
He does a lot of one-arm
concentrating on
push-ups.
power, flexibility, and
I love that
explosive
one.
movement.
But you always almost see his testicles
Karachi's
in
mental
several
conditioning
shots.
Oh,
tips
yeah, I mean,
will
look at how
refine
short
your mental
those shorts
discipline
are.
while the
And it's weird because they make fun of how off the cuff the workout seems, but I mean, compared to something like Rock's winning workout, it seems extremely orderly. I'd like to see more of the tape, and Joe mentions that he ordered 3 more, but we haven't heard anything about CJ Karachi since.
I didn't think so. I wonder what happened. This may be another one of the many things we have to ask Joe and Nick about.
Yeah. So that's just for historical reasons. It's important that they start off with this. In a way, they're setting up the whole series with this one tape, and yet we haven't heard anything back. It'd be like if on Twin Peaks, they just mentioned Laura Palmer in the first 10 minutes and you never heard about her again. It's exactly like that. There's no difference.
Well, but see, I feel like sometimes like the pilot, you end up getting cut or someone becomes a much bigger role than you thought. Like, for example, Nick brings out a tape that sets the tone for the rest of his VCR party life. Buxom Boxers.
All right, well, this one needs no introduction. It's called Buxom Boxers.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you do need to put this in, but then I'll read the description up
This
here.
is the sexy section of the show, right?
Yeah, this is kind of the last one I wanted to show you.
I mean, it's not a Joe tape that's coming out. It's Nick who's bringing it to the table. And, once again, we all know Nick is a sexual man.
It definitely makes you think that this is, in fact, a sexual man.
Yes. And you also get a lot deeper looks into Nick's life. It's not just him hinting at his overt sexuality. But he talks about when showing a video by Kellogg's about being more healthy. He mentions, when he was younger, and this is something that he's hit numerous times, especially in Quarantine Classics, he was not that physically active and really enjoyed the sweets. And so he mentions, not wanting to go to, out to ride bikes with friends because Night Court was on, or bringing Cookie Crisp to sleepovers. Once again, Tom Jacobson was the friend that they were bringing.
But the reason why I identified this is it stars a lazy kid, kind of a kid who's like, I mean, he's not fat, but he's supposed to be a fat kid who doesn't do exercise.
Is he an actor portraying a lazy kid, or is he actually?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a little mini movie. So, and I identify that because I was a fat kid, and there were times where friends would be like, "Let's go on a bike ride," and I'd be like, "Nah, Night Court's on." So
I remember you would show up to like overnights, and you'd bring your own box of Cookie Crisp with you. And
really?
then I remember like you brought it over to Tom's house one time, and you and you would just eat it raw like it was like a.
Well, it is cookies.
Yeah,
I mean,
know, but
right.
Well,
Tom didn't have good cereal.
As somebody like Nick who had an adolescent weight problem, I can really empathize with him because I too spent my Thursday nights watching the NBC lineup, which included Night Court at 9:30. So I know his pain, and I know the comfort of laying on a couch and eating maybe a bag of Pepperidge Farm Chesapeake cookies while laughing and hating myself. So
yeah, see, for me, it was when I was young. I played sports. I was constantly running. Now that I'm older, I understand. I've gone the opposite way of you and Nick. As I'm getting older, I'm just want to sit around and watch
Night Court.
Netflix and eat as much as I can. Yeah, let's
Night Court and chill. That's a new thing.
That's what I'm gonna do.
There's a lot to be weirded out by in that tape, but at some point, the talking apple that is scolding a kid says, "Would you prefer an orange?"
Advice from an apple, right?
You would prefer an orange?
I don't know how that made it onto the tape, or what it's even supposed to mean.
Was that better or worse? I know Nick made a comment about it, and I think some people have made comments about it in the comment section. Some people mentioned it in the comment section, but I know everything about you. Like when the apple says that to the person, it's a little creepy.
I know everything about you.
Right there. I know everything about you. And like a slow push in on a talking apple. And I do want to
maybe that's God. Maybe the apple's God.
He is.
Some other things, like, I always love seeing like the inception, and this was the first time seeing Jeff's birds. It was difficult between the two of them for Joe to, it was Joe's tape, right? Joe was showing it to Nick, yes. And so Nick was having trouble following who was Jeff, what was Jeff.
So you never see Jeff, but you get to know him a little bit just from hearing his narration?
Jeff is not the narrator of the video. It's this guy. He went to Jeff's house.
Okay.
Jeff owns the birds.
Okay.
I don't know what this guy's name is, but he's from New England.
He owns the birds. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And now, as we know, Jeff's birds has become such a huge part, or I think a huge part of the show. I want to see it each and every Easter.
Here comes the Easter bunny hopping down the trail. Hippity hop, don't stop. I got your Easter eggs.
People have done fan art. There's Jeff Morin's Jeff Bird's DVD cover. He's every little girl's dream.
And what's interesting about it is it really grabs them right from the start. They learn the song.
Here comes the Easter bunny hopping down the trail. Hippity hop, don't stop.
I got your Easter eggs.
All right, I gotta go.
Yep.
But there's something that really stood out to me was that Joe says in the intro that the tape is pretty boring, but that Jeff does have peacocks in the backyard. And I think it's the legend of Jeff's birds is now that it only shows a rabbit but no birds. But in fact, there are birds, apparently. I haven't seen it. But maybe this means this is a candidate for an EP episode. I don't know.
I say let's do it. Once again, Melendez, you've been very helpful in the past. But if we all email info@foundfootagefest.com and say Jeff's Bird for an EP, let's get to the bottom of this.
I want to know what's going on. And who knows, maybe, if we watch it together, the whole thing, we can find clues and we can maybe, maybe we'll see a VIN number or something.
Yeah,
because they walk past some cars at some point. We might get one little piece of information that enables the creep to really go to town. And who knows? Maybe we'll find Jeff. Maybe we'll find the birds. Maybe we'll find the rabbit. But mainly the narrator is who we want to find, because what would be great is to find the narrator and to bring him to the next Melinda meeting and have him walk around and narrate what he sees.
Oh, we just give him a camera? I absolutely love that idea. And just have him interact with everybody. That would be wonderful.
Tell me some other things that stood out to you.
There's probably only two left that I really wanted to hit. One is the tease of Rejuvenique.
You put this thing on your face, and I guess it exercises your face into being beautiful, or like it electrocutes you. Maybe someday we'll do that Rejuvenique live on the.
All right, you would try it this time.
Sure.
Like, it's so much fun to see Joe looking at it, knowing that he had never tried it on, and then getting to see where they play the game show, and Joe is just getting zapped.
Yeah. So there's also an unboxing segment, which includes a fan sending in a huge collection of VCR games, one of which is the Nightmare series, which I've only seen snippets of it, but it looks hilarious. And again, they discussed playing the game, I think, in this episode.
They do, and I don't understand why we haven't, because it's like one of those, you discussed playing a different game with them. That was
Dragon Strike.
Dragon Strike, that was one that you enjoyed, right, when you were younger?
It was one that I wanted to play, but I never actually got to play it.
That's right. I think that's another one that I'd like to see them do. I think we've got to, be vocal and let them know. Like, I think that'd be a fun EP to either play the game, or maybe it's not an EP. Maybe it's just some other episode where they just play, or some sort of spin-off where they just play a game. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, maybe even we could play it and then edit it down to make it more palatable to the people who aren't directly involved.
Sure.
But I'm sure some funny things would happen. I don't know if you were aware, but Joe Pickett likes to imbibe alcohol, and perhaps an inebriated Joe will do something comical in the midst of attempting to play a VHS game. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll find out.
Well, let's hopefully see. Let's get him to do it. So it was actually a lot of fun to go back and rewatch this now with so much time and space into it. So I mean, overall, I think it was a solid first episode. You know what I mean? I think it was good. I think you're right that you see a lot of it there. I think that these are fun to go back to. I think next week we will probably let's go back to another. Why don't we go back and do number 1? I don't know if it's up yet or not. But what do you think about doing? What do I think about doing volume 1 for Frenchy and the Creep next week?
Sure.
So once again, we want to remind you guys, if you are in the position to be able to, Joe and Nick's volume 9 tour got postponed. If you are in the position to, please think about joining the Patreon. Every week they're putting up a new episode for the $10 and above. They'll be watching deep cuts into a lot of the videos that we're talking about. It's a lot of fun, and it's definitely worthwhile, once again, if you're able to. What am I forgetting?
And the Super Long Play Club is another way to support Joe and Nick. It's a streaming service that features many great videos, including the volumes of their Found Footage Festival DVDs and other DVDs they've released, and just other great clips.
Great. Well, I had a lot of fun doing this. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Once again, if you have any thoughts, comments, steve@foundfootagefest.com is my email.
And if you'd like to be, hello. And if you'd like to be interviewed about your history with Joe and Nick, please contact Steve at foundfootagefest.com.
Let's do it. Until then, let me see if I'm going to get this right. Rocks are done. Gotta sleep. Bye.
Ahoy, mateys.